you. Welcome to our side event on drivers for the global uptake of green hydrogen in industry. My name is Petra Schwager and I'm the chief of the Industrial Energy and Industrial Application, Energy Technologies and Industrial Application division in UNIDO. Today we have just launched today at lunchtime our green hydrogen partnership. And today in this event, we are going to talk on how to bring this green hydrogen further. So green hydrogen produced from renewable energy source has great potential to contribute to the decarbonization of industry, in specific the energy intensive hard to abate sectors and transfer. The current global production of hydrogen is approximately 70 million tons per year, which is less than 1% being green hydrogen. So in order to achieve a net zero and limit global warming to 1.5% by 2050, the share of green hydrogen in final energy use needs to increase significantly. So today's expert panel will discuss on how to elevate the production and demand for green hydrogen. And in this, establishing conducive governance systems, driving innovation, and building up local green hydrogen value chains are crucial. So allow me to start by introducing our distinguished speakers. I will start by Ms. Mayra Kush, who is a senior manager at World Energy Council. So Maria Energy Council, through its members, represents all energy sources and technologies and serves as the independent voice for international energy issues in Germany. Before joining the World Energy Council network, she worked as senior consultant for energy, environment, and mobility in European, Berlin, Brussels political affairs. Welcome to the panel. Mr. Rodrigo Regis de Almeida Galvão is the Director of Business and Innovation at Itaipu Technological Park in Brazil. Rodrigo has over 10 years of experience in business management and innovation projects with an emphasis on the energy sector. He developed leadership skills and systemic vision, stakeholder and people management. As I mentioned, he's currently the Director of Business Innovation of the Technological Park, and that promotes and supports the adaptation of innovation technologies in Brazil industries. Let me move on to Mr. Jinjian Jin. I hope I pronounced it right, Jin. He's the Dean of Beijing Jinwan Industrial R&D Institute. Dr. Jin is the Deputy Secretary General of the University and Dean of the Beijing Jinwan Industrial R&D Institute. He built up technological innovation centers in China and also the Beijing International Hydrogen Energy Center that we are launching tomorrow in close cooperation with the government, UNIDO, and the government of Beijing. In early 2011, he already launched the first venture capitals in Jiu'an to invest in technology innovation. Welcome to the panel. Mr. Samir Rachidi is the Director of Research and Development at Institute of Solar Energy and New Energies in Morocco. Mr. Rachidi has vast experience in research and development on bioenergy, hydrogen, and energy storage. In 2014, he joined the Moroccan Agency for Sustainable Energies and later the Moroccan National Research Institute for Solar Energy and New Energies, where he is currently, as I mentioned before, the Director of Research and Development. So thank you to all of you for joining this panel. And let me start, please, by a question to Rodrigo. So, Rodrigo, Itaipu is Brazil's largest producer of renewable energy. Available and cheap renewable energy is precondition for green hydrogen production. So what are Itaipu's plans to develop and promote green hydrogen in Brazil? Is the Parque Technological Itaipu involved in the current discussion with the government to establish a national hydrogen program?
First of all, thank you for the invite us to discuss and show what we're doing here in Brazil. Itaipu, it's a power plant, it's not an energy company. Itaipu is the second largest green energy generation on the planet until one year ago, because today Three Gorges is the largest plant to produce green energy in the world. In this condition, Itaipu promotes projects and actions to aim to increasingly and contribute to the energy transition process, as was the case with biogas here in Brazil, where Itaipu invests research to projects to protect the reservoir from polluting organic loads from agribusiness production in this area. In hydrogen, we at Itaipu Technological Park have been carrying out research for over 10 years. We already have a hydrogen production plant, as well as several applications with hydrogen from mobility and power generation and storage. Well, we started the work with hydrogen from another perspective than one we are developing now. At the time when we started, we had surplus of energy, and as Itaipu is a run of a river plant, there was no way to store it, and hydrogen was an alternative in that time. This reality is changed. It changed now, but it is part of, and today hydrogen is seen as a Brazilian strategy to maintain itself as a reference in the energy transition, as we have more than 80% of our generation of renewable electricity. Now, in addition to maintaining ourselves, we understand that we can help other countries to move towards a more decarbonized metrics. Brazil has a committed to decarbonization, and our committed at the last UN meeting was the hydrogen will play a fundamental role in this process. We, from the PTI, the Itaipu Technological Park, are committed together with the government, and we will act together to advance in this direction. In this case, we are restricting our hydrogen research center to become a center focused on the market development and contributing to the tropicalization of technology focused on the competitiveness of the sectors of our economy, such as agribusiness that heavily import ammonia that can be one of the products. Therefore, we are creating a green high hub whose focus to contribute to the development of the domestic market and production for export, as well as to tropicalize technology. About the plan of the hydrogen in Brazil, the National Energy Policy Council defined that the gear lines from the national plans, and we are committed to debate and construction of this plant, which will have 6 axes. Then there are, first is strengthening and technological base. The second, training and human resource. Third, energy planning. 4, legal regulatory framework. 5, market growth and competitiveness. And 6, the international cooperation. Because if you want to develop this market in Brazil, it's very important to make this cooperation, international cooperation.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive program. Thank you so much. Now let me turn to you, Rashidi, for Morocco. Morocco has invested massively in renewable energy during the last years and is currently really driving several initiatives on green hydrogen, like the Green Hydrogen Cluster Initiative and the establishment of a research platform on Power to X in partnership with your institution. So technology readiness in the country plays a crucial role in the success of such initiatives. Based on your work in Arsen, how can you, the research community, support technology readiness of local industries to ensure that green hydrogen technologies are applied and adapted to local conditions?
Yes, thank you very much again for the kind invitation and also for these questions. Indeed, from our point of view as a research center and also a sort of governmental body that is also supporting the national renewable strategy during the last decade, but also now impulsing all the preliminary studies and also the work on the national roadmap on green hydrogen. We see our role as a sort of basics to the industrial deployment, and I will explain myself. The idea is really to ensure that the knowledge is well disseminated among academia first, because they are the, let's say, the factory of our human capital, but also among the industry. And we are also proud to use the expertise and the benchmark that was developed during the last 30 years for the wind and the hydro in Morocco, and especially also the last 10 years for solar, with the ambitious program of solar energy that was deployed last 10 years. And we learned that we need also to prepare the ground for large-scale projects and not to be bring suddenly large-scale projects to local companies that don't probably have the capacity. They have the will, they have some knowledge, some expertise, but they need to foresee in advance how to invest in larger capacities, etc. And by developing our concept of let's say, technological platforms, open sky labs with indoor and outdoor infrastructure, we would like to bring to the table together people from academia and also local industry to demystify to them what is green hydrogen, what are the technologies that are involved, what are the bricks, the more major bricks or the more mature bricks, the less mature bricks, where can we invest in capacity, in a tool, in a production tool to produce this and this. And the idea, and I would like also to be really clear, it's not to take some market share from the value chain, but the idea is really to be complementary on what is done in the other continents. So my objectives, let's say, this is the national objective, but in the regional objective, I would say to be in a really intelligent complementarity between European and the South Mediterranean countries, in a way that we will together reduce the cost of this industry. So the idea also is to enable international technology providers and international project developers to reduce their costs by testing, validating, and adapting their technology to the local context within this green hydrogen and application platform that we are developing. So this is the idea. And we would, and I cannot insist more on what Rodrigo said about international cooperation, and this is key in order for us to do interesting projects, either on the innovation and R&D, but also on the commercial and industrial scale. Your micro, Petra, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. After so many Zoom meetings, you still get trapped in this. Thank you. I was just mentioning that this is a good point also for the next question that I'm having to Dr. Jin, because China and UNIDO are going to launch tomorrow the International Hydrogen Energy Center. So, Dr. Jin, how do you see this center contributing also to this advancement of green hydrogen, also bringing in the investment that is needed? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Petra. And I'm very glad to meet all of you on this workshop. Yes, Beijing and UNIDO are going to initiate the International Hydrogen Energy Center tomorrow. It's a very good news for both of us. The International Hydrogen Energy Center is a non-profit technology innovation center in the field of hydrogen energy. It will focus on the full industrial chain of hydrogen energy and will build an innovation system with basic research, technology R&D, and industrial enterprises. It will be the world's level hydrogen commercial demo. In technology area, we will cooperate globally and develop hydrogen technologies and critical equipment. In industry area, we will launch large-scale industrial demo of leading enterprises. For now, by supporting the IHEC, Beijing is trying to build its global hub for green hydrogen energy R&D, an advanced hydrogen center with international impact, and develop China, US, Europe, decarbonization collaborations in industry. So I think we can cooperate with more partners all over the world to promote decarbonization in industry with hydrogen energy and build a new green industry system in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jin. That sounds very promising, and we very much look forward to the cooperation. Let me now turn to Myra. So Myra, your institute is really driving super interesting projects around the globe and also advancing the deployment of green hydrogen. So with all the projects that you have seen and with the network you're cooperating, what makes a green hydrogen project a successful project? Now, what are the key elements of such a project?
Good afternoon, and also thank you for the invitation. As World Energy Council, we try to look at the global developments and to identify global trends. And of course, hydrogen has become a very important topic for us as it has become a priority on the global energy agenda. And of course, many countries around the globe have discovered hydrogen as a means, especially green hydrogen, to decarbonize the industry sector, including process heat, to achieve climate targets. But when asking what key elements of a successful green hydrogen project could be, that is actually not an easy question to answer because, well, it really depends on different factors, and it may vary from country to country and even from project to project. But in general, one of the key factors for the deployment of green hydrogen, especially in the industry sector, is still the price and consequently the competitiveness of green hydrogen. The use of hydrogen usually is still more expensive, at least more expensive than the direct use of fossil fuels. And that applies to green hydrogen, but also to gray hydrogen, but also to green hydrogen from renewables. And therefore, well, green hydrogen is not competitive, at least not yet. And in addition, hydrogen projects often require high investments in the beginning. For example, investments in the building of the necessary infrastructure to produce, transport, store, and eventually use hydrogen. And therefore, one important element for the market ramp-up of hydrogen in general, but also for specific projects, is funding. And many countries around the world have already implemented or are planning to implement support programs that are sometimes especially directed to hydrogen use in the industry sector, for example, Germany. And in the end, it's important that the government, fulfill these pledges to have the support mechanisms. And as a production of green hydrogen requires large amounts of electricity from renewable sources, it's also important, or at least they are an important factor, affordable electricity prices. it can play an important role in making green hydrogen competitive and therefore also green hydrogen projects. In my opinion, also another precondition for the large-scale deployment of green hydrogen is a set of basic national and at best international standards for the production, transport, use, and storage of hydrogen. Because at the moment, green hydrogen does not yet fit into the regulatory framework. Therefore, we need, for example, common standards for safety standards for the use as well as for the production of hydrogen. And we also need a certification system because greenhouse gas emissions associated with the production, the transport, and the use of hydrogen, and also of its derivatives, for example, ammonia, well, they should be certified because it enables the creation of new markets where these lower greenhouse gas emissions are valued and where there's also a willingness to pay the higher price for these production costs. And in the end, I think it's also important in general to involve the local population in greenhouse gas projects, in green hydrogen projects, to make sure that the population also benefits from these projects, because that in the end can raise acceptance for production and the use of hydrogen in the end.
Thank you very much, Myra. I think we have quite a catalog of what needs to be done. And before I start the next round of questions, I just would like to inform the public that please feel free to put your questions either in the chat or in the question and answer part, and we would be happy to address them later. So we have heard now from Myra also that we need different elements from a successful project, and I wanted to touch upon a point now on the front runners. So we need what is in your view, Rodrigo? What are the front runners? What are the industries that will adopt green hydrogen in your countries? Where can we start? I mean, we are in the initial phase. I mean, we have done already some advancement, but what would be we want to have successful projects. So with which front runners should we team up, and where do you see we are standing at the moment?
Well, this question is $1 million question, no? To say what the industry here in Brazil could be the leader. Like Myra said, there are so many keys to develop this market for different sectors here in Brazil. So the leader will depend on the national and international regulations and tendencies. At the present, the electric sector, the electricity sector here in Brazil is organized itself to become at least a supplier of renewable energy with quality for the producing companies. In short time, it's possible leader could be the new green hydrogen production plants for exports. Thinking about the existing industry, the mining sector has been discussing the matter, mainly due the challenge inherent to the decarbonization of the transport sector within the mining process. On the other hand, there are companies at the agribusiness sector in our country with international capital, which carry out pilot projects elsewhere to the need to use green hydrogen in their production process. But there is still not specific one for Brazil. Finally, unlike other countries, another important sector in the energy generation sector from biomass, such as biorefineries for the production of ethanol here in Brazil. These ethanol production plants may become leaders in the subject to their historical genetics to being technologically competitive in the renewable energy generation sector. Another sector that is well established in the country and could play a leading role to the ASG issues in the steel sector.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dr. Jin, do you have any comments on this also? What does it look like in China? And please also, Samir and Mayra, come in if you would like to add to this discussion.
Yeah, well, I think Beijing City will be a good example of China to use green hydrogen. Just like I said, Beijing will be the base of green hydrogen energy application, and also will develop 2 demonstrations to support its key position. For example, we have more than 300 FCV under operation in Zhangjiakou, and it will be more than 1,000 hydrogen fuel cell buses operating in Zhangjiakou City to support the 2022 Winter Olympics. Hydrogen fuel cell logistic vehicle demo will be operated in Daxing. It's in Beijing City, and we have built the world's largest hydrogen refilling station with 4.8 tons hydrogen per day in Beijing. So based on this special policy and industry support with strong R&D background and our international technology commercialization system, I think Beijing City will be a good example in China for large-scale industrialization of green hydrogen, especially in transportation area. Based on China's equipment manufacturing industry, a number of industry leaders will be in the green hydrogen industry. For now, with the demo of hydrogen energy in transportation, Sino High-Tech is a company name, is a startup enterprises for fuel cell vehicle, supported by our institute. Now, the company is successfully listed on the Science and Technology Innovation Board in last year. It's an industry leader in this field. In the future, with the increasing demand for hydrogen use in industry, hydrogen production by water, hydrogen storage, hydrogen transportation, and hydrogen chemical industry, China will have a number of leading enterprises to support the equipment for the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That sounds very impressive. So Beijing is the next city, hydrogen city, green hydrogen city, no? And what I understand also from the different interventions is that we see on one side we see industry taking a lead, but also transportation is highly important in all this debate. So not just and bringing these two together. Yeah, thank you very much. I saw you, Samir, coming also wanting to add something.
Yeah. I just want to make a point about front runner, and front running is always making good feeling, especially to the ego. It's always good to be mentioned as a front runner country. However, I would say I would like to remind also the audience and the and the attendee as well, that the main objective is to fight against climate change. So for this, I think we would like, or we need to be all runners, not front runners, but all runners, if I may invent this word for this meeting. And the idea also is to start really quickly, because we are seeing a lots of hesitation, and also sometimes we want to be more more let's say idealistic in a way that you would like to be sure of everything, of the scale of the economics, but also of the regulatory framework. I would like also to say that given this value chain of power to X or green molecules, I think we are already in an existing market of 100 million tons a year of each molecule. So it's $10 billion markets for each molecule, etc. So we are already in an established market. The idea now is just to switch or to change the color of the hydrogen that is at the beginning of all of this value chain. So I don't think, in my humble opinion, that the priority should be really focused on regulation. It's always good to regulate. I would say let the private sector and the industry work, as Jean said, and also Rodrigo, and also Maya. I think it's about its point. Launch projects, a certain scale project to demonstrate the feasibility, to demonstrate also the value chain or the supply chain from the green electron and exporting hub to the importing hub, and also to end use application. But also we need to follow this with international cooperation. Probably one thing that needs to be invested or investigated is what we are also working on with the European Commission in the framework of IRENA workshops, is the guarantee of origins. And then, because we have an obligation towards the clients, because we need to certify this is a green hydrogen or this is a gray green hydrogen, to which extent, etc. And I think the guarantee of origins and certification is an issue. Regulation, I don't think so much, at least, because and I would let the private sector and the government launch the first 100 megawatt scale projects for whole chain value. And we see in the collaboration between Australia and Japan a very nice, not only Australia but also the countries from the southeast in the demo projects of Japan, a very good example that need to be duplicated and scaled up. And we are really happy, and Jean is with us today, and with you, this UNIDO China initiative is really giving a nice or a good vibes to all the green hydrogen community, because we know China, we know they are how they are capable of making concrete their projects, and also the scale of their own markets, and also their possibility to attract very well the cost down and also enhance quality. And we have seen it in PV industry 10 years ago. So congratulations to China, and looking forward to have nice results for the next decade.
Thank you, Samir. Just to add on to this, we have, of course, a strong partner with China, but we also have strong support from Germany and Austria today when we launched our global partnership. And this eventually brings me also to the next question for Mayra. So how do you see, what is the importance for such global cooperation, global partnerships? I mean, your institute is such a global undertaking. So what is the importance of this? And also what Samir mentioned now, and also Rodrigo, I think we heard this throughout the discussions, this exchange and really being all front runners, no?
Yeah, can you hear me? Because I'm hearing a sort of an echo. Can you hear me clearly? Yes? Okay, perfect. Yes, well, as World Energy Council, of course, we have traditionally a strong advocate of international cooperation, especially given that climate change and climate protection are both international challenges that are both addressed on an international level. And with regard to hydrogen, in the past year, we've already seen the development of a number of international hydrogen partnerships between countries, but also between companies, and sometimes between both. And those agreements range from initial talks about possible cooperation to the signing of memorandums of understandings, for example, between countries like Germany and Tunisia, Germany and Morocco, of course, and the Netherlands and Portugal. Yeah, to concrete projects. For example, the Haruoni project in Chile, where Germany and Chile try to or test the production of clean e-fuels in Chile. And when we analyzed these partnerships during the past couple of months, we found that they were often developed on the basis of bilateral agreements between potential importing and exporting countries of hydrogen. And well, the reason for that is pretty simple, I think, because on the one hand, there are many countries like Germany, like South Korea, like Japan, who already realized that they will need to import large amounts of hydrogen in the future because they have a large demand, but they don't have a, well, not a large renewable energy potential. So they know that they will have to import, at least in the future. And on the other hand, there are countries with a large renewable energy potential who see new business opportunities, new business models, and also other economic opportunities that may arise. For example, through the development of their own hydrogen economy, through the creation of jobs, through hydrogen exports, of course, or electricity exports for the green hydrogen. So, and as mentioned earlier, these hydrogen projects, and especially green hydrogen projects, they require large investments, especially in the beginning, to develop the production, transport, storage, and of course, distribution capacities. So projects between different countries and different companies can help to share the costs for the development of the infrastructure, and also can help to reduce the risk for the capital employed in the process. So therefore, in our opinion, partnerships can play a vital role, especially in jump-starting the production and the deployment of green hydrogen, especially during the ramp-up phase, but not only. So in our opinion, those synergies should be used. And as could be seen during these past months, many countries are trying to use those synergies. And for example, Germany, in Germany's hydrogen strategy, there are just 2 billion euros foreseen for the implementation of those international partnerships and for developing international value chains for hydrogen. And well, of course, in industrial as well as developing countries and countries in transition, green hydrogen can play an important role as clean energy vector to support national climate targets, and at the same time increase energy security, for example, by reducing the dependence on other fossil fuels, for example, coal or oil. And due to the multiple sources of supply and demand of hydrogen, there are, in our opinion, various options for establishing new hydrogen partnerships and also for transforming existing ones. For example, we also see a number of partnerships evolving within one region, for example, in South America, between Colombia and Chile, for example. And we will probably continue to see the development of those partnerships, well, because it takes a while for regional or even international markets to develop. So in the beginning, we'll probably continue to see bilateral or trilateral partnerships. And actually, if you're further interested in this topic, on our World Energy Council Germany's website, there's also a global map of bilateral partnerships, which we try to update on a regular basis.
Thank you very much, Mayra, and outlining a bit the importance of bilateral, but also global cooperation in this and in these different fields. I wish to take now, there are some questions in the chat, and please feel free to react. And I think I will start from the one below. So what would be the most important multilateral policy that would enhance demand for green hydrogen among the use sectors? The most important, the one and only, or the first one, the front runner? What is this in your opinion?
Petra, can you please say again the question? Sorry.
So the question is, what would be the most important multilateral policy that would enhance demand for green hydrogen among end-use sectors? So if you had to choose a policy, a multilateral policy.
Well, I can speak from the Moroccan point of view, if I may. Well, we have done some preliminary studies and also some in-depth studies together also with Germany support through many mechanisms, and we thank them for this. But from our point of view, we have, of course, domestic and also export opportunities, but we say we see the exports are more, let's say, we have more opportunities in the export market than in the domestic market. So I would encourage really, I mean, the countries that have ambitious, let's say, targets in terms of carbon neutrality, and so they declare themselves as a potential market for those exports to declare themselves. We have, fortunately, we used to have Japan as a leader since 2014 with a clear roadmap that is limited in one page and comprehensive, etc. Now with Germany, we have another declared country, and the market now is getting to settled up and also to have some visibility. But it's really key prior to any, because this is a sort of how is a chicken and egg problem. Shall we invest in certain capacity or wait for a declared market to materialize before to invest? So this is the supply and demand, and we really need to have a vision and the visibility on this. And I think that also Germany is showing the way, and I don't want to make compliments to Germany because they have launched recently a very important initiative called H2 Global. And with this initiative, I think Germany is paving the way because they are taking really seriously their commitment and say, okay, guys, we would like to be neutral by 2040 or 2045. And this is how we make it. And we encourage you to organize yourself in consortia, and we will buy from you the green hydrogen or green molecule, and we will subsidize it indirectly by selling it on the German market at its price. So this is, I think, a very intelligent approach, and that needs to be duplicated. But we really need to pave the way to this middle scale. I mean, the scale-up technologies or scale-up projects between 20 to 100 megawatts of projects. I'm speaking about electrolysis size, and this we need. Funding is a real hurdle, as Mira said minutes ago. We need to have this funding framework. Would it be like intelligently done, like the H2 Global Initiative, or directly subsidizing the consortia?
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to come in? Yeah, Rodrigo, please.
But I believe that the first step here in Brazil is the same that Sami said, that exports is a good market to create the condition to start the green hydrogen here in Brazil. But we need to looking for the domestic market. How can we develop this market? And I believe we need to looking for different kind of policies for different sectors. For example, Brazil, the agribusiness sector in Brazil is so strong. So we need to think how can we, because I work in biogas market here in Brazil to create this market in Brazil. And when we started this in Brazil, we need to looking for different sectors. I think it's the same strategy for the hydrogen here in Brazil. First of all, of course, we need electricity policies to create conditions for this. Here in Brazil, the prices of the wind energy, solar energy, and the hydro energy here in Brazil, in the last action that we had here, the price is very competitive. So we need to looking for the sector of the transport, the gas grid, because here in Brazil we need to create conditions for the create policies for to put hydrogen in the natural gas grid here, the pipelines that we have here in Brazil. And I think the agribusiness sector is very important to see, because we import more than 90% of our fertilizer. And ammonia is very important for us, and I think the hydrogen could be, we can develop this market here in Brazil. And we start the discussion for different players here in Brazil.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting approach. Maybe linked to this question is the one on the certification of green hydrogen. So also reflecting what Samir said and partially what Rodrigo said. So how important do you consider the introduction of a certificate for green hydrogen, especially having export in mind? Who would like to take the floor? Mayra?
Well, maybe I can start because I mentioned it during my... Can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, maybe I can start because I mentioned it during my first intervention. Well, in my opinion, certification plays a central role because you have to know where the hydrogen, the green hydrogen, comes from. You have to know how it is produced, because in the end, people or companies are only willing to pay higher prices for the green hydrogen if they know exactly how it is produced and what carbon footprint the hydrogen they have. So in my opinion, the certification for imports and for exports is the precondition for trade. If we want to establish hydrogen trade, bilateral or international, that is one of the requisites to have, yeah, as a starting point mainly. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at this for now. I'm sure Samir has something to add.
Thank you. Samir, you wanted to add something to this one?
No, nothing special, Petra, but just to say that it is really important, because as Maya said, it's like a label for food industry. I mean, people would like really to buy green hydrogen because they will put the price, but they would like also that it means and it's worth the investment. So I think it's vital, I think.
Well,
yeah, please.
Yeah, about certification here in Brazil, we develop renewable. It's a program to incentive the biofuels here in Brazil. I think the renewable, it's a market-driven incentive mechanism based on the economic theory of the cost market for pricing externalities. It transfers social environment costs of using fossil fuels as an income to the production of biofuels. So I think we need to have a little bit something like this here in Brazil to stimulate this market here in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe I take the next question, and this one I would like to address to Dr. Jin. So is there, do you think that there should be a kind of a policy that encourages, I don't want to, well, the one who Emmanuel was saying, to force the hard-to-abate sector to change to green hydrogen, or support the change? So should policymakers force the hard-to-abate sectors to support the change through carbon pricing mandate, if I understand the question correctly?
Yes, I think the policy is so important to, yeah, first is help us to produce green hydrogen. So how to produce green hydrogen? The most important is the cost. If the price is low, so it will be well used. So how to cut the cost First is the subsidy from the government. Yeah, we need the government can support us to do it. Also, we need more support in the technology, because if we solve the problem in technology, it will solve the problems in the basis. For example, in China, like the solar, the PV, and windy, because the wide use in green energy, so the cost is cut down very quickly. So it helps us to produce the cheap hydrogen. Second is, I think we need the green hydrogen certification is so important, especially for the worldwide market. I think maybe UNIDO can help us to how to do the certification. If we can set up a global market, we can exchange this technology or different resources. I think it's very helpful for us to for we can cooperate to enlarge the scale of green hydrogen, and also we can cut down the cost and help us solve the big problem. Thank you.
I always have this X in front of me so that I have to unmute myself. So thank you very much, Jean. And this is actually, this certification issue is certainly a point that we have in the radar for our global program, and we will take this up certainly. There was also a question before we come to the final round is about the required investments in R&D in developing and emerging countries, and how climate finance can play a catalytic role to support the developing countries in the transition. So specific climate funds, I assume that we are talking here also about global climate funds and or other exchange mechanism. Samir, you also raised this point a bit. I was reading a bit between the lines that kind of you know, how can we do this trading? Reminded me a little bit about the Kyoto Protocol, maybe. How do you see this role in of climate finance in bringing green hydrogen forward in developing countries?
I would say, if I may, Petra, I would say it's really vital, since it's especially difficult, and I can tell you something about it, to find funding for innovative and the demonstration phase projects. Normally banks are always driven, and it's also understood they are driven by bankability, but sometimes this bankability is either not demonstrated or is not interesting enough to engage into a traditional funding scheme from banks. So the role of development banks and also climate funding is key to trigger, because this is what is it about? It's really about triggering the first project, and since there are some hurdles, technological hurdles on the electrolysis part, we need to have this triggering, and yeah, of course, green funds are a very good vehicle for this. But I would say, and by saying also politically correct, it's a bit shy. We have tried to knock on some doors, and it's, yeah, there is some inertia to be politically correct. I don't know if this is also the experience of Rodrigo in Brazil, and but yeah.
Finance is finance is not easy, and when we talk about R&D and read and look to the market, because look, when we talk about different players here in Brazil, the companies wants to read to the market, and we need to develop knowledge. We need to develop technologies, tropicalize some points here in Brazil, and it's a little bit of fight, you know. We need to develop our R&D, but the market wants once things that reach to the market. So here in Brazil, we discuss it for different countries and fundings, national funds and international funds to develop this market here. In our case, in electric sector and the gas sector here in Brazil, we have some fundings for R&D, and our government put hydrogen with the priority. So in the next years, we will see different projects to create knowledge and technology here in Brazil. But at the same time, we have to develop different projects for the market. So this is the challenge that we have here. And when we talk with the banks for R&D, it's impossible. We don't have money in banks for this. When we go to the banks, we need to go to the developed things that read to the market.
So if I understand you, it's these investments in green hydrogen is still considered as being a risky business where we need some additional. Mr. Jin, Dr. Jin.
Yeah, Pedro, yeah. It's a very, very good question. I think the climate fund is very useful for mutual understanding. Yeah, but for our institute and especially in China, we set up a venture capital in green hydrogen. Yeah, it's very useful. Yeah, and maybe 5 years ago, we have a small fund for a green hydrogen investment. It's a very, very high return after 5 years. It's I think it's about 20 times the return for our investment. So we just set up another fund for in venture capital in this area. It's like 100 more than 100 million US dollar, and 80% have invested just after 1 year. So as in China, it's very useful. They like the new technology. We have a great demand and huge market to support it. So I think in China it's very useful to set up such a fund. It's a technology-driven, also a market-driven method. Thank you. But I think climate fund is useful. We can cooperate in this area.
Okay, thank you very much. We are also considering an investment platform in our program. So I think I will reach out to you again. You're really the specialist in this area, I think. We have 2 minutes left. If I can just ask all of you a quick recommendation for us as UNIDO, or while we are starting now the partnership, of course, we will all invite you to join. But what do you think would be one key element that you could recommend to us that we really take up? So it's a partnership, but it's also a technical cooperation program. Who would like to? Mayra, why don't you start? Or whoever wants to start.
Okay, yes, and I was actually able to follow the launch this morning, so congratulations. Well, as I mentioned earlier, international energy and hydrogen partnerships can play a vital role. So therefore, I congratulate you on the launch of the partnership. And from what I gathered this morning, this already sounded like a comprehensive initiative, but maybe I don't know. I think I would just stress again what I said in the beginning, that in my opinion is really important to involve the local population, to make sure that they're involved in the projects, in the development of hydrogen in the specific country, so that they accept the developments and the production of hydrogen, and maybe also the use and the export.
Thank you, Mara. I have to quickly go to Rodrigo because we have 1 minute left. And then
the key, well, thank you for the invitation. I think the key to develop this market is the policy. I think the policy is the first point that we need to develop this. Thank you for this invitation and opportunity to share a little what we are doing in developing here in Brazil.
Thank you very much. Dr. Jin.
Yeah, I want to send my best regards to UNIDO and its global partnership. Yeah, it's a successful global partnership is based on mutual trust and communication. So it's important to choose a good platform to build up the global partnership. So we would like to play a bridge to support UNIDO and its partners of the world to develop a green hydrogen project with our best efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you very much, Petra, again, and congratulations for this big, news. For this initiative, we have some really short recommendations to make for those projects that are taken into consideration between UNIDO and its partner. I would say to insist on reinforcing training and capacity building activities in order to qualify a competitive, high added value human capital in partner countries. I would also recommend engaging in pilot projects focusing on the whole value chain, include scale-up studies and implementation in real industrial context, and last but not least, disseminate the results and best practices of those projects in intermediate and final workshops, conferences, including site visits also among the partners. And thank you again very much for the invitation and for this opportunity to share some thoughts.
Thank you very much, Samir. We have certainly taken note of all your recommendations, and I'm sure we have overdrawn by 2 minutes, I think, but I really would like to thank you for this excellent exchange of information, and also the ones who were listening for all the questions that we have received, and we very much look forward to work with all of you. So have a nice afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are, and we look forward to continue the cooperation. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye-bye.